All right, our next open micer is going to be Kathleen Vance, coming to us from Gibson's.
Okay.
What are you going to share tonight, Kathleen?
Just a piece.
All
All right. Mars, Anne, you want to go ice skating? Billy asked. The pond's frozen in the field. You can borrow my mom's and my dad's skates. Will their skates fit us? Mars asked. Nah, nobody's skates fit. You just wear more socks. Let's go, Billy said. I think it's cold enough today, although they say never go skating on a duck pond because the ice might quack. Get it? Anne and Mars were soon going to find out how close to the truth Billy's latest pun was. The three kids stomped across the cold field with their skates. Anne loved the way the ice felt under her skates and the way it quickly carried her to the middle of the pond. She heard the cold wind crossing the field and felt it hit her in the face. Then she smelled something a bit moldy, like the old leaves at the end of fall. She almost crashed into it because suddenly it was right in front of her. Look at this pile of sticks and branches. It's all stuck together with mud and rocks, Anne shouted to Billy and Mars. It's a beaver lodge, Billy said. That's what you call a beaver's house. How did they get into their house in the middle of the pond? Where's the door? Mars wanted to know. They swim in from the bottom, Billy said. Oh, look! Anne couldn't believe it. She skated backwards in surprise. There under the ice was a real beaver swimming. Its back feet were like the web feet of her duck at home, and it was using its feet to swim in the water. It had a flat tail, and in its mouth it held a small branch. It was as big as a really big cat, and it was brown and shiny. It was the most beautiful animal Anne had ever seen in her whole life. Is it going to use that branch to build its house? Mars asked. I hope not. Its house should be all finished for this year. That branch is just a special treat to eat, Billy said. Beavers like to eat grass, leaves, and twigs. I've read a lot about beavers. I like them. They're called nature's engineers. We learned in my old school that the fur trade by the colonists killed millions of beavers, almost all of them, but they're protected now, Mars said. Be quiet and come see this, Billy said. He led them around to a hole, a kind of chimney on the top of the pile of sticks and branches. I see smoke. They can't have a fire in there, Anne said. Nah, that's their breath. Just like you can see your own breath on a cold day. The beavers are in there breathing, Billy explained. Anne, Mars, and Billy stood there quietly, each thinking of the beavers living and breathing so close to them. Some of them maybe even swimming right under their skates. Anne and Mars looked at each other, each thinking, this is magic. A thought which made Anne a little bit scared. I'll race you, Billy cried and sped ahead along the ice. Anne and Mars followed until they suddenly heard it. The ice was cracking, a little at first, a tiny crack. Then the cracks got louder and started spreading. Anne and Mars shouted at Billy, who was far ahead. Then Billy fell, and it looked like he was going through the ice into the water. Anne remembered a story she read about a kid saving another kid who had fallen through the ice. From the story, she knew that she had to get a branch for the kid to hang on to so she could pull the kid out of the water across the ice to the shore. And she had to move fast because according to the story, the kid would go under the water 3 times. And when the kid went under the water for the 3rd time, the kid was a goner, unless the other kid pulled the kid out of the water. Anne raced to the beaver lodge and pulled at one of the branches. She could hardly move it. Billy would say those damn beaver houses are almost impossible to take apart. Thinking of Billy made Anne try even harder. She kept pulling and pulling, trying to get the branch free. Help me, Mars. We're running out of time. I've got to get this branch, Anne shouted. Mars and Anne together finally pulled the branch free. Spread out, skate slowly so we don't make more cracks in the ice, Anne told Mars. Finally, they reached Billy, who was leaning on the ice. Anne hoped he wouldn't get too tired and slip off the ice and go under the water. And if he did, Anne hoped it would be just for the first or second time and not for the third time. Anne and Mars both lay flat on the ice so they wouldn't break it. And that's all that fits in 5 minutes, so you won't know whether or not Billy drowned.
Oh my God, I'm not going to sleep till next month.
Who knows? It might be in a book one day.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kathleen. That was great. All right, and our next reader up is our partner, David Kipling, coming from Gibson's Landing as well. Good evening, David. Oh, you're muted. There we are.
Oh, I'm allowed. Okay.
No, I muted you. No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, good.
Right, he screamed at me. Right, for Christ's sake, or we're dead. I've never felt a wind like it. The grit and leaves shotgunning our faces as we clung to the horses. I was out of my mind. Where the hell did the horses come from anyway? Oh yes, that farmer, poor sod. We pushed him aside when we leaped from the wreck of the burning chopper, and we'd left him cursing in the mud and straw of his stockyard, bolting the stable door after his best mare and filly. Right more, my companion, damn him, leaned from his saddle beside me and bellowed across, showing his yellowing teeth. Right, for God's sake. The thudding hooves showered us with grass and dirt and gravel until we reached the valley floor, our spines and the horses' forelegs jarring against the packed earth we met at the bottom of the slope. The darkening clouds were already choking the hilltops, dimming the orange glare of a burning church, and now a dying sunlight barely filtered through. Blood suddenly showed in my horse's flying foam, and the beast took a slow, crumbling dive of muscle and bone onto the roadway, and I rolled free. My heavy gun slid out of its holster and skittered out of reach into the flooded ditch. Caspar swung a booted stirrup at my head and lashed out with his whip, shouting, "Right, I told you to bloody right, you feeble failure, or it's the pen for both of us." He was panicking, mindless, and he was soon going to be a liability. Pressing the stainless steel bolt of the humane killer against my horse's writhing head, I sent it to oblivion. At the side of the road, an empty motorcycle leaned on its stand, and it took me only a moment to throw off the plastic sheet, kickstart it, and fishtail away at full throttle. It was more unwieldy, heavier than I'd expected, despite the desperate bark of the twin-cylinder Triumph engine. Why so sluggish? An arm suddenly half-circled my waist, and a second helmet bumped against the back of my own. Through the exhaust note and gale, I heard a familiar curse. "Write, keep writing or we're dead. You said you could write, for God's sake." I twisted my neck and yelled back, "Where's your pen, you parasite? Earn your keep. The agreement was half and half, so put your pen where your mouth is." That silenced him for a long moment as we burst through the flimsy plywood obstacles the roving gangs of booksellers and reviewers were tossing in our way. The fast crack, crack, crack of a manual Remington made us duck, then the unmistakable smack of an Olivetti set on automatic. Almost night now, forks of lightning spattering the foothills, and at last a powerful headlight finally picked out the giant hoardings strung on cables straggling the highway. In Gothic script, which our jacket design artist had sworn he would not use this time, our working title blazed across the landscape, "Writers of the Storm." As we crossed the swaying wooden plank bridge high above the churning torrent, I drove an elbow backwards hard and heard a gasp and felt the bike lighten. I muttered into my mini Corder's microphone, "Note for sub-editor, make that title singular, not plural."
Wow, that was a real diversion for you, David. Thank you. Out of realism into that. I loved it. That was sweet. Okay,